Going on, guys? All right, week 1 is in the books, and boy, was it a wild one. We have a great guest tonight to come on and preview week 2 with us, so stay tuned.
Fantasy football, you dealing with the best. Keep it hype, authentic. This ain't nothing like the rest with the Armchair Fantasy Show podcast. Give advice for all the listeners to improve your stats. Yeah. We live on GoingFor2 App. Tuesdays and Fridays, this is what you want. Talking dynasties and daily drafts, and we just getting started. That ain't even a half. Yeah, so go ahead, tell your friends to join GoingFor2, cause no one remembers the extra point. Hey, GoingFor2.com, the Armchair Fantasy Show.
What's going on, guys? All right, sorry we're running a little bit late tonight. We had some difficulties with the cameras and some audio. Actually, we got Ryan and Josh, our guest, on audio tonight. No video for them. I can't get it to work, so
I'm sorry.
We're just gonna roll with it. Ryan's very upset that the ladies can't see his beautiful face tonight. All right, guys. So we're a little bit off tonight, but as always, you can follow us on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Periscope, all your podcast networks, and also in the GoingFor2 app for iOS and Android. What you heard Ryan in the background. We also have Josh. Is it Dalley? Is that how your last name is pronounced, Josh?
You nailed it, my friend.
All right, and you are the co-host of Next Fan Up podcast. You can follow it at NFU Podcast on Twitter. So give us the rundown. What is the Next Fan Up podcast all about?
Yeah, so Next Fan Up was created by Jay Soderberg, who most people probably remember as Pod Vader from ESPN's Fantasy Focus podcast back in the day.
Yep.
He was the predecessor of Daniel Dopp, a.k.a. Secret Squirrel, and Jay has basically assembled an army of us fans that represent each team. Yours truly represents the Detroit Lions, but my primary role, aside from being the Lions super fan, is I actually am a host of our Saturday morning fantasy. First thing Saturday morning, so if they're waking up and grabbing that bowl of cereal or watching their favorite Saturday morning cartoons, man, we got them covered with the fantasy angles. Last year was very DFS centric. This year it's more like start, sits, studs and duds, and just kind of going over like some situations that are playing out from a fantasy perspective for the most part.
All right, good stuff, man. Good stuff. And we can find that. You said it's the Twitter is NFU Podcast. We can find that, I'm assuming, on all your podcast networks.
You got it, man. Everything, everywhere they're at, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, basically wherever you can find, all your trusted content, it's going to be there for you. And then we are basically, we're the only show that comes out with a recap for all the games that's going to be available for you for your Monday morning commute. We record all the recaps basically fresh after they happen. And you get those from, each going over how the games kind of shook out. So sometimes you can get a little raw emotion in there after some bitter defeat. So it's a lot of fun. We're knowledgeable fans. We're not just kind of like these message board trolls that you see online all the time. So we kind of, most of us know what we're talking about.
All right, good stuff. Good stuff. Like I said, we're running a little bit behind, so we're just going to jump right into the news and notes.
News and notes from around the league.
News and Notes is sponsored by Expand the Box Score. They have player profiles charting every touch from every player, customized leaderboards, and award-winning writers. Use my promo code GF210 to save 10%. Expand the Box Score, hashtag We Got Stats. All right, so breaking news right before we came on the show tonight. Antonio Brown is once again in the news. Apparently he's being accused of rape, and there's actually been a legal thing against him. Josh, we'll go to you first on this situation. I know it's fresh. We don't know a whole lot of details yet, but what is your first thought of this?
Well, honestly, man, my first thought from looking at some of these emails or whatnot on Twitter, it's a little spicy, a little interesting, but I think for me, for right now, I think the timing of it is definitely interesting. So that's kind of one aspect of it. Most of these communications that we're seeing here on Twitter right now are from, I believe, late June. So it's kind of, it looks like it's been in the works for a little bit. Obviously, his legal team has a statement about it already, so they must have been somewhat prepared. So it's something that's been going on behind the scenes this whole time. while we've been dealing with frostbite, helmet issues, and basically hype videos to get oneself released. So, I mean, it's just, this thing has snowballed into an epic proportion here at this point.
Definitely has. Ryan, what do you think about this? Do you think the Patriots knew about this when they signed Antonio Brown this past weekend?
I mean, they definitely knew something was up. Like he said, the timing's weird. It almost feels like a cash grab. I read the emails and the message that I can't even. They had like a DMs with some girl about it. Everything seems shady. I'm kind of just. I'm just waiting to see what happens on it. I'm making no guesses either way or no opinions either way until we actually have the real details. Because somebody says it's getting exonerated already.
Really?
Yes. So it's super weird.
Yeah, I read the legal thing right before we came on. Someone from Twitter posted it, and I was just reading through the legal document, basically documenting every single incident that happened. I mean, it was like, it went from as simple as him kissing this girl without her consent to him masturbating while she was bending over, not knowing that he was there, to full-on rape right towards the end. So it was an interesting read, to say the least. And like I said, there's no details yet, so I don't want to speculate anything. And who knows? Yeah. It could be a money grab for her. It could be a legit thing. Who knows?
Right. Incarcerated Bob's one who tweeted the AB conversation and said it was exonerated already. And the conversation was very interesting. So it's worth reading.
All right, let's get back to fantasy football now. So,
thank God.
Couple of big topics from this past weekend. We can't touch on all of them, but one of them that stood out to me was Kyler Murray and his 18-point comeback. He was terrible that first 3 quarters-ish, and then all of a sudden it's like something just clicked and they started lighting it up. We're able to come back from an 18-point deficit to actually get into a tie with the Lions. Josh, we'll go to you first. What do you think of Kyler Murray? You think we see the guy that was in the fourth quarter, or we see the guy that was in the first 3 quarters this next weekend?
Was the Lions super... was definitely frustrating. I mean, we pretty much had him under control for, like you said, over 3 quarters, and for him to kind of pull what he did, there was a very unfortunate misplay as far as clock management and Darrell Bevel not trusting Matt Stafford as far as blitz pickup or whatnot, or diagnosing the defense, I should say, when he came to the line. Basically, we get that first down on that play and the game's over. But then, instead we end up not getting it and punting the ball right back to the Cardinals. And I mean, if you look at the time of possession in that fourth quarter, I think this is a lot more to do with the Lions' defense just being absolutely gassed toward the ends of the game because, they put up a field goal and they scored a touchdown and they started running a lot of the rubs. That made it hard because the Lions, they were keeping everybody in front of them, but at the same time, I mean, every single play they were on a lot of plays, so they definitely sped up the pace of the game, which was nice to see because that's definitely a change of pace from last year with this Cardinals offense. But I have no doubt that he's going to be pretty successful here. Just seeing what he did to kind of come back and tie the game, it was impressive. Not quite as impressive as maybe some who didn't watch the whole game would think, because there were points where he was literally running into, or I should say the O-line was running into him, and getting sacked by his own teammates. So Lions did a really good job all last year as well in this, limiting mobile quarterbacks and rookie quarterbacks especially. So more of the same this year so far. It just happened to be that the Lions they just couldn't hang in there for the entire fourth quarter, and then of course they played an entire 10-minute overtime.
Right.
And somehow in 2019 we still have ties in the NFL.
Yep, definitely. All right, Ryan, I'm going to go to you for this next one, and of course this is your team. I'm calling this one the Jackson 5, as in Lamar Jackson and his 5 touchdowns. As a Ravens fan, be honest, were you expecting it to be this good this early?
No. I expected a big win, which we said on the last episode, but I didn't expect it to be him just, completing 80% of his passes, having 5 touchdowns, the most yards ever setting franchise records for the most offensive yards, most points scored, for perfect passer rating. Hollywood Brown setting records. No, I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah, no one saw that one coming for sure, I don't think. So what was the most surprising thing to you? You think it was Lamar Jackson's play? Was it Hollywood Brown? Was it just the whole thing in general?
I think it was just how well they clicked as an offense. We had Mark Ingram have 100 yards rushing, and that run game just opens up the passing game, makes life easy for Lamar. I mean, if you watch the game, even the highlights, all those deep passes, there's 8, 9 guys in the box, and these receivers are single coverage. Like, Minka Fitzpatrick's a fast dude, but he got roasted by Hollywood Brown, and he had no help over top. So the teams have to make a really hard decision when they play Baltimore's offense. I think it'll go, some games it'll go super heavy rushing, and some it'll go more towards passing. I don't think it's going to be what we saw this week, but I think it's going to be consistent fantasy production.
Yep, I think I agree with you there as well. I wasn't expecting him to be that good. Luckily, I did start him in pretty much all my cash games in DFS, so it was a good weekend for me with that. Just that alone. So, great stuff. All right, we're going to go to the next note on here, and I just got written down. Brown's gonna Brown. Basically, they came out with all this hype. The Titans were supposed to be very good, and the Titans just kind of put it on them. Josh, what do you think of this Browns offense? You think they're in trouble, or is it just a 1 week thing and they'll be fine next week?
Well, I think the main point here that kind of gets lost with all the the hype of all these acquisitions. Of course they went out and got Odell and they made some other big additions to this team. I feel like they had a good draft as well. But the thing is all of these guys kind of need to gel and come together here. And you saw things. I mean, preseason is important. I mean, I know a lot of people kind of devalue that and make light of it, but I think it's very important. I mean, we just talked about the struggles that Kyler Murray and company went through the first 3 quarters or so because they really weren't running the type of offense. They admitted that they were, hiding it from us in the preseason. And you look at Baker and Odell here for the Browns. I mean, they didn't have any reps in preseason in any of those 4 games. So I think it really showed out on the field. I think that, I don't know how much of that was, Baker having his wrist beaten up. It sounds like from everything I'm reading today that he's fine and he should be good going forward. But definitely a disappointing performance. I mean, that's really all I can say about it. But I think it's going to take a little bit of time to get all these guys on the same page. But the main factor as far as offense is they really. I mean, you saw that O-line was kind of a concern coming in, and it definitely proved to be a concern throughout the game as the Titans' defense, definitely was putting pressure on Mayfield all game.
What do you think is closer to the truth? Do you think the Browns playing as bad as they did is closer to the truth, or do you think the Titans are as good as they looked on this game?
It's a good question. I think it's somewhere. I think they're both somewhere in the middle. So I think that we're going to see the Browns probably. They might go out and throw up another stinker here in the next couple of weeks, and then of course people are really going to be talking about disappointing season and things like that. But I think we saw at the end of last year when Freddie Kitchens kind of took over for Hugh Jackson. Once they had enough of Hugh, you saw this team kind of take a corner, and I think it's just going to take a little bit of time to get them going. And but at the same token, I think the Titans' defense is a good defense. They're an underrated unit. And especially the secondary. So, I think that they definitely showed out quite a bit, but I wouldn't expect them to kind of make hay as they did every game like they did last Sunday.
Right, exactly. All right, Ryan.
I'd say the one thing that stood out with Cleveland is their offensive line really should be an issue. They gave up 4 sacks and they got a ton of pressure on Baker, which led to those turnovers. And I think that's you have all the talent in the world, receiver and skill positions. That's a major issue, though. If they don't have an offense that can make up for that with getting rid of the ball quick or whatnot like that, they need to figure out something to make up for it.
Definitely agree. All right, let's go ahead and get into the pick'em games here, Ryan. So we started a contest last week between me and you with the pick'ems. I think I came out on top this week.
You're up 1 game.
I'm up 1 game. I had 11 games right, and you had 10 games right. So I got the little bit of an edge there in week 1. And so tonight is Tuesday night. So tomorrow waivers run. I know it's kind of late. But Ryan, I know you put an article out on GoingFor2.com with all the waiver wire additions that are kind of the popular ones. If you can give us a couple of those guys off your article and talk about that a little bit.
I'm just kind of go like bigger leagues first, like when we have a little more guys available. James Crowder had 17 targets. He got 14 balls. That's a must-have. He's available in about 30% of leagues. So obviously it's not for everybody, but if he's out there, that should be a priority. Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson, I'm going to compare them to the other tight end. They're available in about half the leagues. Both of them got a ton of volume. They made plays down the field. Both those offenses went heavily to them. They were both Andrews first in his team in targets and Hawkinson second on his team. They're guys who are going to get volume, and at the tight end position, that's absolutely huge. If you're super flexing a quarterback, Gardner Minshew, he looked pretty decent. They have another good matchup this week, which we'll hit on a little bit later. And there's a whole slew of receivers, especially young guys who really stepped up. Probably my favorite of them is Terry McLaurin. I think they don't have any options on that offense. He was out there almost 90% of plays, and he had 7 targets for those 125 yards. So I think he's a guy who could be a little more consistent. But definitely keep an eye on John Ross, Hollywood Brown, A.J. Brown, and some of those other rookies. And old reliable Danny Amendola also will be a huge part of Detroit's offense, which I'm sure Josh can hit a little bit farther on for, a little bit better on them than I can.
Yeah, talk about them a little bit, Josh. I know you're a Lions fan, so what do you think of Amendola there?
Yeah, it was interesting to see, all the different offensive personnel that they worked in, and they went 2 tight ends quite a bit, but they also went 11 personnel quite a bit, which is exactly what I was expecting. I really expected them to put up quite a good mix of plays. I thought the play calling was really well, and I liked the way that they mixed in Amendola. If you are in a deeper league, he could be a guy that would be worth a flyer, especially if maybe you're dealing with some other injuries or if you lose out on some of these running backs here on the light earth in week 1.
All right, good stuff. Go ahead, Ryan.
One running back I wanted to say, he's available everywhere almost, and it's absolutely ridiculous. It's Chris Thompson.
Yep.
Yeah, he was a huge part of the offense. He was an RB1 last year before he got hurt. Obviously, he's not a career RB1. He's not a guy who you expect to be that. But low end RB2, high end RB3, week in, week out, he can be that guy, especially if there's guys being hurt. Spend some fab on him. It's worth it. If you spend 50% or more, that's fine. He's a guy who you can plug and play at any time and not worry about if he's healthy.
Yep, especially because the Redskins are supposed to be down, quite a bit. They're not a very good team, so if they're down, he's the guy in there. I think even in preseason you saw it. And when third down came around, it was Chris Thompson in the backfield. It wasn't Geis. It wasn't obviously Adrian Peterson. Chris Thompson's the guy they trusted in pass protection as well. So if they get down, especially to this game in Dallas here, they're going to get down probably early, and Chris Thompson will be in the field quite a bit. So his AP can't catch, and Geis is hurt.
Exactly. Him and the tight ends are my top 3 waiver ads this week.
All right.
Yeah, ideal game script for Thompson in all these games.
Definitely. Yep. All right, let's get to week 2.
This week's game-by-game previews.
All right, the first game on the docket, of course, is the Thursday night game. We got the Bucs at the Panthers. Ryan, you got the Bucs side of things. What are the big stories here for the Bucs?
Big story had to have been Jameis underperforming. He threw 3 interceptions. Got like 5 fantasy points, depending on what your scoring was. It was atrocious. And the offense struggled. And then Mike Evans had the flu, and a lot went wrong. San Fran played great, but them underperforming was huge. It's not panic for me, though. I think you got those guys. You've seen them perform before. Mike Evans, I'm not worried about. Chris Godwin, I'm not worried about. And I think I'm going to give James a little bit more chance, but I think their team needs to have to be a little bit more patient on. And then also the running backs with Dare Agabawanye and Ronald Jones. They're looking like they both look decent. I think Jones looks actually a little better, but Dare got a little bit more run in the offense. But that may be more game script than anything else.
It's pronounced Dare. I've been saying it wrong all offseason. It's Dare Umbangawale.
It's so much cooler there, though.
Yeah, it is good. It's pretty much cooler. I agree. But you're pretty much starting your guys, right? You're starting Winston still. You're still starting Godwin. You're still starting Mike Evans. The running back situation is probably murky. You're probably still starting O.J. Howard.
Yeah, I'm starting basically the 3 main receiving threats if I have it.
Yep. All right. Good stuff. All right. The Panther side of things, Josh. What are you looking for the Panthers?
I think the Panthers defense is probably going to have a good showing here at home. I think this total is a little bit high considering all the offensive struggles that we saw on Tampa's side of the ball. But at the same time, I think that the D could capitalize quite a bit. But I think that is going to turn it into more of a running game. I don't really think that we're going to be able to see DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel eat. I know Greg Olsen is banged up, so it might be a potential breakout game for Ian Thomas. It'd be really interesting to see, kind of what they do when they get down in the red zone. But I think it's going to be a lot of what we've always seen past couple of years, which is a lot of CMC and a lot of Cam. Cam's still one of those the best goal line backs in the league. So if they do get a couple turnovers, this game could get ugly. And I think it's only Carolina by about a touchdown right now. So at least that's the line on the game. It could be a blowout. We saw what San Fran did to them. So it could get nasty pretty quick.
Definitely. All right, Ryan, who you got for this game?
I have Carolina, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than most people think it is.
Yeah, I think a division rival game Thursday night is going to be a tough game. But I also have the Panthers as well. Josh, who are you going with?
I'm going Carolina as well.
All right, sleep it. Next one up is the Cowboys at the Redskins. And Ryan, you got the Cowboys. They had a huge game last week against the Giants. They get the Redskins this week, 2 back-to-back division games. What you looking for here from the Cowboys?
I mean, first thing you got to look is if Dak can continue on that absolute tear he was last week. He looked fantastic. He looked like a guy who wanted to get that $40 million a year. And that offense is clicking under Kellen Moore. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do. I think you got must plays in Dak, Amari, and Zeke, obviously. And I think Gallup's a guy who's coming up a little bit as well.
All right. Is that it for the Cowboys? You got anything else you want to talk about? Any sleepers, any guys you're looking at that might be there?
I want to see one more game with Tony Pollard, see if he's somebody we can completely fade cut. I think that's the other big thing. I think the 2 receivers, Dak, Zeke, are must plays, and then minus Gallup's must play. And then I think we should temper those expectations on Witten, where he scored some nice fantasy points last week. I don't think that's something that's ever repeatable.
All right, good stuff. All right, what about on the Redskins side? We've talked about Chris Thompson a little bit already. Anybody else on this offense you're looking at, Josh?
Yeah, definitely Thompson is the guy I'm targeting in DFS and as a waiver pickup, like Ryan already mentioned. You mentioned Vernon Davis as well. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I hate to say it. I loved watching the dude play for so many years, but there's a chance Jordan Reed could just be totally done, and we could be looking at a whole season of Vernon Davis. And if you scoop him up now in week 1 on the cheap and season long, I think that's a fantastic move. He's not going to cost you very much. And in DFS, I am a little leery on going with Vernon Davis in DFS just because I have a little historical bias against any time it's Vernon Davis chalk week. Seems to burn me, but for those who take a look around on the waiver wire after your moves just processed here. AP could still be out there. AP was drafted in most leagues, but hey, if Geis is out for 6 weeks or so, AP had over 1,000 yards last year. The dude can still get it done. It's probably not going to be a favorable game script for him, but Chris Thompson's probably going to be the running back I'm looking at, and of course Terry McLaurin on the sheep as well. I doubt his price has come up enough in DFS to steal me away.
All right, good stuff.
I did start Vernon Davis and Scott Fishbowl this week. It was out of desperation.
Hey.
I'm gonna take props for it.
It paid off. Real quick, we got a question on YouTube. I didn't get a question and answer section tonight, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask this question because it's kind of relevant. I'm gonna ask you, Josh, because I know who Ryan's gonna pick. He's asking who to start for this week. Derek Carr or Lamar Jackson? You know, Derek Carr looked pretty good on Monday night. Lamar Jackson, of course, looked amazing.
I mean, I gotta go. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to not start Lamar Jackson. Even Stafford ripped off a couple of runs against the Cardinals D last week. They don't have Patrick Peterson. I mean, they're down a few significant players, and I really think that while the Kansas City-Oakland game could be a shootout and that total is higher, I think right now it's like 52.5, but I still got to leave Lamar at home. Maybe they do get off to a big lead and he doesn't have quite as good of a game, but man, these guys put up a 50-burger plus last week, so I got to go with Lamar. He's a total stud.
I agree. I think it was Lamar Jackson, no brainer. Just put him in there. I'm sure Ryan's saying the same thing as a Ravens fan, so I'm not even going to bother asking him.
Rude, but okay.
Yeah, the upside's much too big.
Agreed. Yeah. I'm assuming we're all going Cowboys here. Is that right?
Yeah, I am.
Sweep it.
All right. Next one we got is the Colts at the Titans. Colts was Brissett actually looked pretty good last week. They didn't get the victory, but he didn't do too bad. T.Y. Hilton, I think he had 2 touchdowns. So Ryan, talk about the Colts a little bit. What are you looking for in this game?
I want to see the Marlon Mack show keep going. I mean, they fed him. He looked like an absolute stud out there, and it's what we've all wanted to see out of him. And I thought it was awesome. I want to see that heat pace. I think Titans are a team that they play that ground and pound football, slower pace. I think Marlon Mack's going to feed right into that. And I was really happy with T.Y. Hilton last week because everyone kind of pictured him as a guy who fall off. And he might have himself cemented in that wide receiver 2 range even without luck there. So those are my 2 biggest guys. And I want to see who else can kind of step up offensively because they're going to need a little bit more than 2 of them to do it. Whether it be someone like Paris Campbell or one of the tight ends really become the guys there.
Yeah, so the Funchess injury is pretty devastating for that team, I think. And I think that someone's going to step up, either Deion Kane, whether it's Paris Campbell.
I hope it's Kane.
Me too.
I just caught Kane in my Dynasty League, but I really hope it's Kane.
Yeah, he looked pretty good in limited work in this last game. So, yeah, good stuff. All right, let's go to the Titans coming off their big upset victory over the Browns. Josh, what you got for the Titans in this game?
I mean, every way I look at this game, it just sets up like a total letdown spot for Tennessee coming off of that huge upset, like you mentioned. These dudes put up a lot of points. We talked about already twice now how that offensive line for Cleveland was pretty poor. It is the exact opposite in Indy, and I think that they have the best offensive line. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think they allowed the Titans a sack in either game that they played last season, which is absolutely remarkable. Especially when you consider Jacoby Brissett's a little bit more mobile than Andrew Luck. This line of 3 points in favor of Tennessee, I think, is largely aided to the fact that they are at home. If I was a betting man, and I've been known to do exactly that on occasion, I would definitely be taking the 3 points with the Colts. That game against San Diego was a lot closer. San Diego. I'm like 3 years into this. You think I would buck this habit by now, but
I do all the time
against the Chargers. Yeah, it happens. But the game against the Chargers was a lot closer than people probably thought it was going to be. And I mean, I just think as a whole, this Colts team is still not quite getting as much respect as they deserve. They got a ton of talent. So I really, for that reason, I think it's going to be a real struggle for the Titans. And I think for that reason, they're probably going to just try to find any way they can to get the ball to Delaney Walker. But as far as running backs go, man, I could see this being, back into the kind of like the nightmare time split that we saw,
right.
With Henry and Lewis. So who knows, man? I really don't know. I'm not attracted to any of the options outside of Delaney Walker, to be honest with you.
Fair enough. All right, who are you picking in this one?
I'm going with the Colts.
Colts. Ryan, who you got?
Well, I think Titans. I think they're kind of they're finally look like they're going to ride Derrick Henry. They gave him that 20-plus carries, and it worked for them. Hopefully, Rainbow Company's not that dumb, and they're learning the mistakes of or learning the right ways to do things. And I'm going to trust them to do the right thing and pound the ball on Colts to slow down that offense and win it home.
All right, good stuff. I'm going Titans as well. All right, so the next one we got is the Seahawks at the Steelers. Of course, the Seahawks pulled out a victory against Cincinnati. The Steelers got embarrassed on Sunday night. Ryan, we'll go to you first here on the Seahawks side of things. What you looking for in this game?
Biggest thing I want to see Tyler Lockett can get up. He had one catch last week.
Yep.
That's not acceptable.
And it wasn't until the fourth quarter, I don't believe.
Yeah, he's the guy who they hyped up as being their top option, stepping up to Doug Baldwin, being used in the slot all over the place, and he had the one catch. It looks like his role hasn't changed. He's just that big play guy, and I want to see if they'll actually fix that. Super excited about DK Metcalf. He looked great.
He did.
He made great plays downfield. It made us forget all about that three-cone drill. It was good to see him dominate, and I think he's going to be a major part of that offense. And the other thing is, Chris Carson dominated steps. He was on the field so much more than Rashad Penny, who was an afterthought to that offense. Chris Carson keeps that kind of volume. He's an RB1.
Definitely.
And he's a guy who I think they can ride until the wheels fall off.
All right. Going to the Steelers side of things, they got embarrassed, of course, on Sunday nights, and no one played well.
It was beautiful.
Big Ben was terrible. Juju was terrible. James Conner wasn't any good. I mean, that was just an overall just bad night for the Steelers. You predicting a little bounce back here, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. This game's 3.5 point spread here live in favor of Pittsburgh at home, which does make sense. I think that Seattle had a little bit of an easier time last week against Cincinnati, but honestly, this Cincinnati team they played looked a lot better and had a little more fight than I expected. They're going to definitely have their hands full against the Steelers, and I think the Steelers will have a little more success all around. Maybe not quite as much in the run game now that they do have Clowney. People really underrate his effectiveness in the run stopping, and I really think that it's going to be more of a passing game. And Big Ben could be cutting it loose in this one. Juju sounds like he's going to be fine. Dante Moncrief looks like a scarecrow out there, so hopefully they get James Washington more involved. That's what I would personally like to see. But I do think it's going to be a lot more pass heavy, which is hard to think being more pass heavy after getting trounced and having to throw nonstop last week. But I would definitely look to see if we can see some sort of breakout performance from Washington. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Vance McDonald get involved in the game.
Yep.
This could be a sneaky spot for Vance McDonald to get a couple grabs in the end zone as well.
All right, good stuff. And who are you picking in this game?
I'm actually going to take the Steelers in this game.
All right, good stuff. And Ryan, who you got for this game?
I think Steelers. It makes me sick to say, but honestly, Seattle's offensive line is bad. They were ranked the worst in the league last week for protecting the quarterback, and Steelers got some guys who can get after the passer, and I think that makes a difference. Two teams that are really, I think, a little bit more down on offense than people give credit for.
All right, I too am taking the Steelers. I think the Seahawks are a bad road team, and the Steelers are a great home team, so that combination right there favors the Steelers for me. They bounce back and have a good game here. And I know everybody on YouTube and Facebook keep mentioning our audio issues. I'm aware of them. I'm trying to fix them as we go along. Apparently Ryan and Josh are echoing, and I'm trying to figure out why we have an echo there, but I apologize. We are trying to work through it. There was a software update right before the show started. I updated it, and it just messed everything up. So I apologize. We're working through it, guys. All right, on to the next game. Bills at Giants. Of course, the Bills had that big win against the Jets. The Giants, of course, were embarrassed by the Cowboys. The Bills side of things, Ryan, what you looking at for the Bills?
I'd like to see them keep improving a little bit this week. I think Josh Allen showed really good rapport with John Brown, especially late. He trusted him when the game was on the line. He had 10 targets, 125 yards, touchdown, which was the biggest touchdown of the game. And I think it's one of those things, we haven't seen Josh Allen really get the reps in the preseason we wanted, so it could take a little bit of time for him to get loosened up, which we saw as the game went on. And Devin Singletary's a guy who looked great, and I think he's someone they're going to start slowly upping the volume up. It may not be as soon as we want to see, but I think we'll see maybe a touch or two added every week or so. until he's the guy there.
All right, good stuff. Going over to the Giants side of things, you predicted any kind of bounce back here? They're at home this week. They didn't look very good at all last week. Josh, what do you think of the Giants?
Yeah, I don't know if a bounce back is in the cards here. I mean, as far as a fantasy perspective, I think the two core plays are going to remain the same pretty consistently here in the beginning part of the season while Sterling Shepard is banged up and Golden Tate is on suspension, and that is the two main components, Saquon, and also going to Adam Ingram a lot in the tight end position. So, I mean, those are the two main guys that I think we're going to be looking at playing from a fantasy perspective. But this Buffalo defense is legit. I just don't think a lot of people. I just don't think they got enough pub in the offseason. You know, a lot of people talked about how they lost Kyle Williams, but they replaced him with Ed Oliver, and that dude's a stud. So I really think that there's a very significant possibility that this defense doesn't skip a beat. And Sean McDermott is a fantastic, underrated coach, in my opinion. I think they kind of continue everything that they had from the momentum going last week. I don't really like a whole lot going in the Giants' favor, even though they are at home. They're still in the state of New York. Well, technically New Jersey, I guess. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pick the Bills in this one.
All right. And Ryan, who are you picking in this one? You want the Bills as well?
I'm going with the Bills as well. I went against them last week, and I regretted it, so I'm going with the Bills.
All right, I'm going Bills as well, so we're going to sweep it. Moving on to the Patriots at the Dolphins, and probably the biggest mismatch of the weekend. Of course, the Dolphins just got destroyed by the Baltimore Ravens and their prolific passing offense. Ryan, you got the Patriots here. What are you looking for, the Patriots?
I mean, number one thing has to be AB, right? See how he performs in that offense. How quickly he picks up their plays, because I know they have a complicated playbook, and he kind of played a little bit off-kilter or just running around with Big Ben a little bit. It's a little bit different offense, but he's still one of the best in the game. So, he's number one priority to watch there. And then, like we saw Josh Gordon, I think, unlike most people, I believe that AB helps Josh Gordon a lot in his performance. I think he takes away a lot of pressure, and Gordon showed that he's a guy who can run after the catch, beat defensive backs deep, and now he's not pulling number one coverage. So I really like what we're seeing on them. And then the running backs for the Patriots, I think this is going to be more of a Sony Michel game than a James White game, because they're going to be up big and kind of grinding out the clock late. So I think we could see a big game out of Sony Michel. Are
you afraid of Rex Burkhead, who looked pretty good in this past game? He kind of took some shine off of Sony Michel, who struggled this last game. Are you afraid of Rex Burkhead at all?
I mean, I always have a slight fear at the bottom of my stomach about Patriots running backs, but I'd say Michel has the best chance to get the carries in this game, but Bill Belichick's always out there to prove us wrong.
Yeah, exactly. All right, going to the Dolphins side of things, Josh, you get the unenviable task of talking about the Dolphins. Is there anybody here worth talking about?
Right, yeah, I'll keep it short, man. This spread opened up at 15.5, and it's ballooned to like 19 in some places, and just money still coming in on the Pats. Say what you will about Brady's struggles against the Dolphins. There was a pretty cute tweet I saw earlier last week where his winning percentage against the AFC East opponents was drastically lower against the Dolphins, but in comparison, the dude still has 6 rings, and I absolutely think that the Dolphins are going to get smashed. It could be a good game to play Kenyon Drake. He could get some looks out of the backfield quite frequently, just kind of like we were talking about with Chris Thompson. It's just kind of like ideal game script for the Pats to come out, smash the Dolphins, and just keep chucking little dump-offs to Kenyon Drake, because their awesome secondary is going to shut down all the crappy receivers that the Dolphins have.
Yeah, the only thing I would say to this is my boy that I've been piping up all offseason did not look very good, Mr. Mike Gesicki. I know Ryan's happy about that one. He did get some volume, so if he gets volume, he could be a low-end tight end 2 or a mid-tight end 2, but he did not look very good. He had a couple drops, and he just did not look explosive at all. So
I didn't realize he was playing. Can the Caleb Lodge experiment die yet, by the way?
Yes. I know you're not a fan.
He had -5 rushing yards against Baltimore. I know our rush defense is good, but -5. Come on, man.
Yeah, I think he's droppable in all redraft leagues, personally.
Agreed.
Yeah, he's trash.
Agreed. All right, the last game before the break, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Texans. Ryan, we'll go to you first with the Jacksonville Jaguars now without Nick Foles. They got Gardner Minshew, who obviously, kind of stepped in. They're pretty good against that, that Chiefs defense. The Texans are not the Chiefs. Their defense is a little bit better. So what are you looking for from the Jags?
I mean, we all picked the Patriots, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't even bother asking that question.
Dude, we disrespect the Dolphins every week on
every
here.
week.
You do it every week, and I don't know if it's on purpose. I think it's going to be another rough start. It's going to be a rough game script for Leonard Fournette. He looked great when he had the flashes of the ball, and when he actually got it, I thought he looked strong, explosive, everything we wanted to see out of him. But this is another game that Houston can sling it, man. And it's going to keep him up. It's going to keep the ball out of his hands unless they really figure out how to slow it down. And I liked what we saw the receivers. I thought Chris Conley did great with the amount of volume he got. DJ Shark, who's a guy who I've been just ripping on for 2 years now, I thought he actually looked pretty good as well. Gardner Minshew has a little bit to him. I think it's not going to be as pretty this week just because people are going to know to expect, even with a little bit of game film on him. So don't expect him to be a plug-and-play guy this week. And probably I would suggest starting DFS as well. But I think they're a team that has a little bit of upside and maybe some random plays here or there. But Connolly's a dude who I'm starting to trust a little bit, and then we'll see with Fournette this week.
I'll say Fournette got some good targets out of the backfield, I believe, too, right? I mean, we heard all season about his targets going up. I wasn't buying into it, but, I mean, it looked like they did kind of involve him a little bit.
Yeah, it's just this game strip, they're not going to be just dumping off the running back and running the ball. Or at least it shouldn't be that.
Yep. All right, let's go to the Texans side, who had the heartbreaking loss there and probably the game of the week. Might end up being the game of the year, the way that game turned out with Breeze and Deshaun Watson battling it out there in that fourth quarter. It was just amazing to watch. Anything on the Texans side we want to look at, Josh?
Yeah, heartbreaking loss. Going to be a short week here. One less day of rest for these, but hopefully Deshaun Watson is fine. I mean, he took a couple nasty hits in that game, which has kind of been the theme ever since he's been in Houston. But basically, I'm expecting a big Will Fuller game. I think that we're going to have a lot of Jalen Ramsey on Nuke Hopkins, and I don't think that the Jags are going to be shy about occasionally even offering assistance to Mr. Ramsey. So for that reason alone, I think that we will probably see a big Will Fuller week. And just the snap count in the backfield I thought was really noticeable. A lot of people, my Twitter timeline was just absolutely blowing up last night talking about how Carlos Hyde is, rejuvenated and he's been born again. And but Duke Johnson had pretty much like double the snaps, and I think that he is going to be the guy that I'm looking to put in play here. I think Jacksonville is going to probably give them more dump offs after seeing how bad Watson can torch. People may have forgotten about that, but that dude has one of the prettiest deep balls I've ever seen. Yep. We saw it on display last night on Monday Night Football, and I think therefore Jacksonville is going to play it a little closer to the vest, maybe try to limit some of those big plays, and therefore I think Duke Johnson, especially on PPR sites like DraftKings, is going to be a good value for DFS this week.
Definitely, I agree there. All right, this is a tough game to pick, but who you got, Josh?
I'm going to go with Houston.
All right, Ryan, who you got?
Houston as well.
All right, sweep it. I'm also going Houston at home there. I think they get a bounce-back win. So, all right, quick commercial break, guys. When we come back, we'll tackle the rest of the games. Hold tight.
In the unpredictable world of fantasy sports, when all hope seems lost and chaos and confusion rule, one hero will rise. And change everything. GoingFor2.com. Because no one remembers the extra point.
All right, guys, welcome back. I'm here with Ryan and Josh Dalley of the Next Fan Up podcast. We are previewing week 2. We are on the Vikings and Packers next. The Vikings, of course, came out, and Dalvin Cook was pretty dominant. I think Kirk Cousins threw 10 passes the entire game. So, Ryan, what you looking for from the Vikings this week?
I'm looking forward to seeing more Dalvin Cook. You know how Jonas, I love Dalvin. He's a Florida State dude. I've watched him his whole career, and he's finally healthy and doing what people who followed him expected. He had 21 for 111 and 2 touchdowns. He looked explosive, strong, kept the ball in the backfield. He does everything. That offense is built for him to succeed right now with Gary Kubiak there as the offensive coordinator. And I think we're going to see a lot of Dalvin all the time. I hope that we see a little bit more of the passing game. We know Stephon Diggs was hurt. I know he played, but he was beat up. He had 37 yards, which is completely unacceptable for a guy who we took in rounds 2 or 3. But, Again, it's week 1. No need to overreact. And Thielen's going to be what we expected out of him. I think you can get a little bit on Kyle Rudolph, but not really loving it as much for this week. I think they're going to continue to go with what worked.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that Diggs thing. I heard
it's unbelievable.
I heard a stat on the footballers that they said that anytime Diggs has been questionable with any kind of injury, he's played terrible. I mean, every time he's been questionable for anything, calf, hamstring, whatever, he's had terrible games. So whenever you see that questionable tag next to Diggs, I would look to avoid him if possible. But yeah, I agree. I think Dalvin Cook is the play here. Obviously, he's he had an amazing game. Kirk Cousins didn't have to do much at all to hand the ball off. It was a pretty good game all around. So,
and then Green Bay's they're going to have to pass a little bit more against Green Bay as well.
Agreed.
I mean, I know Atlanta didn't show up, but Green Bay is still Aaron Rodgers' company, which is going to cause it to be a little bit of a shootout. So, do not expect 10 pass attempts on Kirk Cousins. Let's get a little bit more to the medium.
Definitely. All right, going to the Packers side. Of course, they had that big win on Thursday night to kick off the NFL season. They didn't look pretty doing it. They only had 1 touchdown the entire game. Do Packers have a bounce-back offensive game in this one, Josh? Josh, you there?
Oh, yeah, sorry. The cut off just a little bit. But, yeah, I think that this game is going to go very slow. Like you guys already mentioned, the Minnesota run game. I do think there's going to be more than 10 pass attempts on the other side of the ball, like Ryan mentioned. But, probably maybe 18. I really think that they're going to try to feed the ball because, seeing how good and improved the Packers pass rush was just by adding the Smith brothers in free agency, I think that was a huge impact for this Green Bay defense. Massive upgrade. There's just good defenses everywhere in this division. And for Aaron Rodgers to come off playing the Bears at Soldier Field and then turning around and playing this, just another outstanding defense in the Vikings, this time at home.
Tough.
I think being at Lambeau gives him a little bit of an advantage here. It's probably why they're favored here slightly. Not a surprise that the point total has dropped a whole 1.5 since the line opened at 46. So I definitely think we could see that maybe even drop into the Buffalo, New York territory into the even lower 40s. But I think this could be one where the Packers do end up, having limited opportunities for Aaron Rodgers, and therefore it may just be, who's going to be able to run the ball the best. And if that's the case, well, then I think it's probably going to be Minnesota. But this is probably the hardest game of the week to predict for me, to be honest with you. If I was, forced into it right now, I'd have to say Minnesota takes this one, but it's probably going to be real low scoring, like 20-17.
All right. What about Marquez Valdez-Scantling? Are you starting him this week in any of your lineups or any of your fantasy leagues?
Well, I definitely think we saw him emerge as that number 2 guy, and that's somebody that you have to pay attention to. He's if you drafted him anywhere near where his ADP was. For those who drafted Geronimo Allison, boy, they're really feeling the exact opposite right now. And
yep.
It's kind of a burn, and me included in Scott Fishbowl. So yeah, that's the one thing that you can take out of this is we know who that number 2 guy is. At least we have 1 week of evidence anyway.
True. All right, so you got the Vikings. Ryan, who are you going with?
Vikings.
All right, I'm going Packers.
I was waiting for you to pick different than me.
Yeah.
I thought you were just trying to hold on to that 1 point lead the rest of the season.
I had to vote back Packers. My wife's a Packers fan. If I voted Minnesota, she might kill me on my sleep. So I got to go Packers here. All right, next game up is the Chargers at the Lions. The Chargers had a tough loss. Actually, no, they won their game. They came back and won that game. They looked pretty good. Keenan Allen was a beast. There was an injury with Mike Williams that we're not sure of yet. And, of course, Melvin Gordon is still holding out. And they got the new superstar there, Mr. Austin Eckler. So, Ryan, give us the rundown on the Chargers.
First thing we have to watch is the injury report for Mike Williams. I have a bunch of shares of Mike Williams, so I'm pretty nervous about it. But I think he's a guy. I think it's something that he's had injuries in college. He's had he's been banged up here. So I think we should need to watch him pretty closely. I think Keenan Allen's showing up that he is a superstar receiver, should be consistently ranked in the top 12. I don't know what made him fall or had people kind of let him drop in drafts. He's unbelievable. He kind of just reminded us. And Austin Eckler dominated snap count. He's had between 16 and 18 touches all 4 games. He's been the starter between the 4 to 6 for Jackson. So I don't think it's close who's the running back there. And I think he's a must-start. He can be a solid RB2 in that offense. And as well with receivers, I'm worried about Detroit's defense a little bit. I don't mean to rip the team a little bit, but we kind of saw them get exposed by having this spread out receivers and a lot of different weapons in Arizona late in the game. And the Chargers are way, way more talented all around.
All right, and I didn't know this before the podcast started, but the Lions is your team, Josh. So let's talk about the Lions a little bit. Looking for a bounce-back game here at home?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can expect them to at least have a more all-around finish to this game where they at least play for all 4 quarters. Hopefully not 5 again. But they're definitely going to have some issues covering either the flats or the middle of the field. And, therefore, I think they're going to have a hard time covering Hunter Henry and Keenan Allen, like Ryan mentioned. They can just move Keenan Allen around anywhere. And in my opinion, I mean, he's the best route runner in the league. So he's just surgical. And I mean, it's not going to be hard to find weaknesses in the Lions defense. I do think that it is going to be a very different story for Austin Eckler this week. I don't think he'll have nearly the room to run. So I expect this game to be a little bit lower scoring than maybe people anticipate. For that reason, I think it's going to be a little bit slower on the ground, and I think it's going to be a good game to fire up Kerryon Johnson. I mean, especially if you took him in the 2nd or 3rd round here in your season-long leagues. You gotta trot him out there. You gotta trot out Hawkinson after that massive debut performance. That's one way I think that the Lions could possibly squeak out a victory is if they are able to take advantage of whatever the Chargers give them, and that could involve, hitting the tight end quite frequently or even getting Jesse James involved as well.
All right. Are you going to pick the Lions?
Oh, I probably should, or I might need to find a different podcast. So I'll go ahead and I'll say that the Lions win or cover.
All right, fair enough. Ryan, who you got in this game?
Chargers. I think they have a pretty nice game against Detroit.
All right, I'm going with the upset. I'm taking the Lions as well here. I'm going to be a little bit off the chalk here and go with the Lions. I think they have a bounce back here. I think that Kenny Galladay shows up, has a big game. I think Kerryon, like you mentioned, has a big game here. And I think the Chargers, if Mike Williams is out especially, I think that they're going to struggle on the road a little bit in Detroit. So Detroit pulls this one out late. All right, the next one up on the docket is my 49ers at the Cincinnati Bengals. Ryan, you got the Niners. You want to talk about them a little bit? You want me to talk about them?
I was going to surrender my analysis to you, so go for it.
All right. Well, obviously the big news here is Tevin Coleman is, he's out. He's missing at least this game, if not more. So immediately that puts Matt Breida right in front and center there as the running back to own. I think Raheem Mostert obviously is a big waiver wire ad as well because he'll play at second fiddle now. And actually, of the 3 running backs in that game, I watched that game. He looked the best at all 3 of them. He actually had a rushing touchdown that was called back on a dumb penalty that wasn't even part of the play. It was a blocking or a holding penalty against somebody else, and it wasn't even part of the play. He scored a touchdown on that play and got called back, so he would have had a much better game. I think he's definitely a good add. The big story here for the receivers was Dante Pettis. I mean, not only did he not show up in fantasy, but he played 2 snaps. Literally played 2 snaps after all the hype that we had this offseason about him being the number 1 receiver. He obviously was not. So he did something wrong. He pissed somebody off. Shanahan doesn't trust him anymore. So you got Goodwin as a starter now. You got Deebo Samuels kind of mixed in there a little bit. Ricky James Jr. had some nice plays in there. I think he actually scored their lone touchdown. So I think that it's a little bit interesting, a little bit wait and see on the receivers. Kittle, if you had Kittle, you're probably a little bit disappointed. But if you watched that game, he also had 2 touchdowns that were thrown to him that were called back on dumb penalties. One of them was an offensive lineman was lined up too far off the line of scrimmage, and they called that one back. And then there's another one that was called back on a holding penalty. I think he would have had a much better game, obviously, if those 2 TDs had counted. So I wouldn't be too worried about Kittle. And on the defensive side of the ball, we looked really good. I mean, we did what I thought we were going to do. We shut that Tampa Bay Bucs offense down by getting to the quarterback. And I think, even though we didn't really get too many sacks against Jameis Winston, I thought we were going to get a lot more sacks. We forced him into some bad turnovers. Obviously turned him into 2 touchdowns. So this defense is sort of underrated, and I was actually one of the smart ones that actually played them in DFS, and they were the highest scoring defense on the week with, I think, 30 DK points. So my Niners defense are a streaming defense right now, and maybe eventually going to be a defense that you want to add and keep on your team or on your squad forever. So be on the lookout for all that as well. All right, let's go to the Bengals side of things here. We got an injury to talk about, and in that passing offense as well, we got a guy that we kind of left for dead there. Josh, you want to talk about them a little bit?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It sounds like Joe Mixon's status for this game is up in the air, so it's going to be kind of a wait-and-see approach. It's going to make Gio Bernard kind of a hot waiver wire pickup, especially for the Joe Mixon owners out there in fantasy. But it's, you got to play him. I mean, he's going to be a value in DFS if he is out there on the field. And,
yep.
Coming back from the dead, like you just said, John Ross changes number. All of a sudden, he looks like a new dude out there on the
yep.
field. So it was definitely very interesting. I don't want to I don't want to really, lend this to anything other than I think it's just a change in the offensive philosophy and finally getting Marvin Lewis out of there and, whatever other coaches are going to be dragged down by his, defense first type of philosophy. But it's definitely something where I thought that the Bengals their offense just looked a lot more alive. I kind of talked about that when we mentioned the Seattle game. I think they had their hands full a little more than they thought they were going to. And I think that's why this game is so close. I mean, this game is pretty much a pick 'em right now. It's tough for me to say who I think is going to win, to be quite honest with you. I'll just take Cincinnati because they're at home. Really, that's my tiebreaker here.
All right. Ryan, who you got for this game?
I'm going to take the 49ers. I think Cincinnati's on the up and up a little bit, but I still don't fully trust them. And they're kind of weak at the middle of the field, especially at the linebacker position, which means George Kittle is going to freaking eat. So I'm going to go towards the 49ers.
All right, I'm going Niners as well. I think the offense looks much better in this game. I think that they start to click. The defense, I think, gets a little bit better as well. They get to Andy Dalton a little bit more, and I think they shut that Bengals offense down. So I'm going with the Bengals as well. All right, next one up, we got Cards and Ravens. I know, Ryan, we usually give you the away teams. This time I'm going to give you the home team with the Ravens. So since it's your team, mention them a little bit and talk about who you're looking for in this game.
I think the Ravens are going to I think they're going to run the ball a decent amount this game. I think Ingram's set up for a big game. And even though the Cardinals did play a little bit better last week, but there's a lot of gaps. They're really spread the ball around. I think we just lost Josh.
Oh, we did.
Huh?
We did, huh? I'll try to get him back.
Oh, he said his phone died.
Oh.
So I think that the Ravens, Mark Andrews is going to be a must start on the offense. Out of the receiver, a little bit of a crapshoot. Yes, Hollywood Brown was huge, but he had 5 catches, but he played 18 snaps.
Yeah.
So that's not sustainable.
No.
unless they pulled him because they were out big and wanted to keep him healing a little bit better and make sure he didn't get hurt. That scares me a little bit. I'll be a wait and see. And same with Boykin. He didn't have a ton of snaps. Snead's the safest out of the receivers right now, but I'm leaning towards the tight ends and Mark Ingram and obviously Lamar.
What about Justice Hill? Any interest there? I know he didn't do too much in this past game, but he's been talked about quite a bit.
I don't right now. I think Gus Edwards has that number 2 spot locked down. Justice Hill's just got to be kind of a little change of pace guy between those 2 bangers they have between Ingram and Edwards.
All right, since we lost Josh, I'll do the card side of the thing. I think it's going to be an ugly game for the Cardinals. I think what we saw the first 3 quarters in the week's game, we'll see for all 4 quarters in this game. The Ravens' defense is just too good. So I think that, you're probably not starting Kyler Murray. You're probably not starting any of the receivers here. I think David Johnson you have to start. You don't love it, but you have to from where you drafted him. So it's just it's pretty much run of the mill here for the Cardinals. Start DJ, bench everybody else, and just hope that DJ can get a touchdown in this game.
Yeah. One thing with Kyler, we saw 5 tip passes at the line of scrimmage last week. Baltimore's fantastic on defense at tipping passes, which could be something that leads to turnovers. Their defense is going to be absolutely money.
Yeah, that's something that, coming into the NFL, we talked about a little bit with him being, a smaller guy that think passes getting knocked down. So something to look for sure. All right, we're running up against the clock here, Ryan, so we're going to go quick fire here.
Raven. Okay. Oh,
sorry. You're picking the Ravens?
Yeah,
I'm picking the Ravens too. I wasn't even going to ask that one. I know we're pretty much picking all the Ravens. So next one is Chiefs and Ravens. Chiefs and Raiders. So go ahead and take the Chiefs here. Who you got, Ryan, for this game?
With the Chiefs, obviously the passing game, Mahomes is ridiculous QB1 this week. I want to see who steps up as receivers, whether it's a guy's what was the rookie's name? My brain just stopped.
McCole Hardman.
Whether it's McCole Hardman or Demarcus Robinson, I think Sammy Watkins is going to be the number 1 guy right now until then. I think we'll see a little bit more volume out of Kelsey because he had caught 3 passes last week.
All right.
And the Raiders aren't really strong up the middle with Vontae Burfict kind of being a liability in pass coverage at middle linebacker. So I think we'll see a big bounce back out of Kelsey, even though 3 for 88 is still not bad. I think we see that high volume game out of him. But I'm watching the receiver position this week. I'm going to grab one of those other guys who's going to step up in Hill's place, but I don't think their offense is to beat.
Yeah, going to the Raiders side of the thing, I think offensively they're going to be fine for fantasy. I think that Chiefs defense is not much improved. And even if they are improved, they're never very good on the road, and they're going to LA for this game. To Oakland. And I think, Tyrell Williams showed out this past game. I think Josh Jacobs looked really good. Derek Carr looked like another quarterback that I don't even recognize. I think at one point he was breaking records with like an 80% completion percentage. So I think if you own any Raiders, and I know I do, I have one in my Dynasty League that I got to make a decision this week. I got Tyrell Williams, and I'm debating putting him over Kenny Galladay because he just looks so good, and against this Chiefs defense is a great matchup. So Raiders step into that category of almost must start this week. And of course, Waller, the tight end that we've been hyping up all preseason, looked really good as well. He stepped into that Jared Cook role and didn't miss a beat. So Raiders actually look like a good fancy option, which we didn't think coming into the season. But even without AB, they looked pretty good last night. So fire your Raiders up, especially in DFS because they're still pretty cheap because they played on the late game on Monday night. So both FanDuel and DraftKings couldn't adjust their prices in time. So they're pretty cheap. They're priced they would have been priced if they were still a bad team. So I think Tyrell Williams is viable. Stack them with Derek Carr, and then of course you got Josh Jacobs there at running back who played pretty much every snap. I think Rashard had 1 snap the entire game. To the next game, Ryan, we got the Saints at the Rams. This was a huge game last year for DFS and for fantasy purposes. It was a high-scoring, high-flying game. The Saints are going to the Rams this time. So give me a little bit of a rundown on the Saints. What you looking for?
I think the Saints are kind of a really bizarre offense. We literally see all their production come from 2 guys, which I've never really seen before with Alvin Kamara and
Michael
Thomas. I think Alvin Kamara is just an absolute superstar right now, and he's going to be a guy who wins you games week in, week out. But really, outside of them, Teddy Ginn showed up a little bit. He had 7 catches for them for 101, which is beautiful. So he's probably their number 2 threat. And no one else on that team had more than 2 catches.
Amazing.
So, yeah, it's crazy how they can produce the way they do with it. So, obviously, they're star players. Roll with them. If you're feeling like you can go for those big plays, which we'll probably see, I have no problem throwing Teddy Ginn in there if I'm in a matchup where I need some boom or bust potential. But other than that, man,
I agree.
It's those stars.
Yep, I agree. You start those 3, the big 3, Drew Brees, Mike Thomas, Alvin Kamara, and then if you're going to play, Latavius Murray or Traquan Smith or Ted Ginn Jr., you're basically just holding your nose and hoping that, things go your way.
Yeah, Latavius had 6 touches. He had a nice stat line by the end of the night because he had a touchdown, but that's it.
Yep. All right, going to the next game here. Oh, sorry, we'll pick this game here. Well, you got Saints-Rams. Who are you picking?
I think we got the Rams at home. Did we have any analysis on the Rams?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I guess I got to do that as well. I'm used to having a second guest here. All right, on the Rams side of thing, everyone's scared about Todd Gurley and this Malcolm Brown thing. He had, I think, 2 touchdowns, but Todd Gurley still played 70% of the snaps. I think Brown just happened to get lucky and get those touchdowns. So don't worry about Gurley. Don't panic. He still played plenty of snaps to get the ball and get had plenty of fantasy value. So please don't panic on them. Jared Goff and this receiving core didn't have a great game, but this is the Saints, and it could be a high-flying, high-scoring game. So look for them to bounce back a little bit. Other than that, same thing with the Saints. Start the guys you're starting. You're starting Goff, probably. You're starting Gurley. If you drafted any of the receivers, Brandon Cooks, Cooper Kupp, or Robert Woods, you're probably starting them as well. This game is a game to stack, too, in DFS. If you're playing DFS, look at this game as getting as many players from this game as you possibly can, because last year I think it was like a 50 to 52 score or something like that, over 100 points scored. So definitely a game you want to target. Other than that, there's not much to look for in this game. It's basically start the guys that you start normally and roll with it. Yep. And I am actually taking the Saints in this one on the road, going to the Rams after that big win over in Houston. Who you got, Ryan?
I have the Rams at home. I think they bounce back, especially in the passing offense. Like I said, week 1's a blip, man. Everything we see isn't what's real. So I think all those guys come back and are super strong.
Yep, and we didn't pick the Chiefs-Raiders game, but I'm assuming you're going Chiefs there?
Yeah.
Yep. All right, moving on to the Broncos. The Bears at the Broncos here. So on the Bears side of things, you got Vic Fangio on the other side there, who was their defensive coordinator last year and their interim head coach for a while. So some good storylines to go around here. But what are you looking for from the Bears? Any kind of bounce-back offensive performance here?
Yeah, I would see the ball go to David Montgomery. We saw the Broncos just get thrashed by Josh Jacobs last week on a team that trusted their rookie running back. And I'm hoping the Bears saw that and took notes, because the Broncos were super susceptible to the run. And the Bears are built to be that kind of team with that ridiculous defense that is going to score an absurd amount of points against the Broncos. Allen Robinson looked completely different last week. I think he has high-end wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 1 potential right now, even with Trubisky's deficiencies as a passer. But I don't know who else will step up. And I think Tariq Cohen's another guy who has a ton of value because they're moving him all over the location. Essentially, he's their slot receiver. So I think he can have independent value, even if Montgomery does get the type of volume we're all hoping for.
All right. On the Broncos side of things, there's not much to talk about as far as positives because they didn't look very good against the Raiders. But my boy, who I've been talking about all offseason as being the better running back to own, Royce Freeman, had a better game than Phillip Lindsay. Lindsay was bottled up the entire game. Royce Freeman was more efficient against that Raiders defense. I think that continues in this game. I think Royce Freeman is the better running back overall for the first second down. I think Lindsay's more of a third down guy. So he'll get those big plays, but he has to have those big plays to be viable, where I think Freeman gets that volume so he can be viable in fantasy. The receivers, I think Sutton kind of showed out there. He was the guy to own. I think Emmanuel Sanders looked pretty good, but Sutton was the one that you really wanted to have. Deshaun Hamilton, who got some hype this offseason, was non-existent. I think he had 2 catches the entire game. Did not do very good at all. So I wouldn't be touching any of those guys. The only guys I'm probably going to start here are going to be Royce Freeman, possibly. I'm probably going to start Sutton. And of course, Fant, he didn't have a great game either, but Fant is a possibility if you are, one of those guys that wait on tight end and that's all you got to start is, go ahead and start Fant. Broncos defense, though, looked a little sketch, so I'm a little nervous. They only had, I think, 1 fantasy point this past weekend, which is terrible. And
they're getting old, man.
They are. I think that
they're
defense
getting really old, and nobody talks about it.
Yep, definitely. All right, so I'm actually taking the Bears in this one on the road at Denver. Who you got for this game, Ryan?
Bears. If it's betting against Joe Flacco, I'm doing it.
All right, good stuff. And I'm trying to get Josh back on the call here. I think he might be ready to come back on. Hopefully we can get him. We got a couple more games to go. The next one we got on here is the Eagles at the Falcons. Ryan, you got the Eagles side of things. What are you looking at here?
I look for them to kind of pick up where they left off in the second half of that game. Deshaun Jackson opens up the entire world for Carson Wentz, man. He makes Carson Wentz look like those flashes of the MVP caliber quarterback we saw before. And I think he's going to be in that conversation with the top guys by the end of the year. Alshon looked great. He was able to body guys, score, do everything he wanted on offense. I think they're a team that's really stepping up the passing game. And I think Ertz had a 70-30 split basically target-wise at the tight end position. So while the numbers weren't great, I think he's a guy it's going to be right where we expect it from him.
Yep.
Running game's a little bit of a mess right now. They literally gave it to everybody. I didn't even Darren Sproles getting carries in there. Yeah. Who expected that?
Yeah, exactly. What is he, like 41 years old?
Yeah. I'd probably feel more comfortable with him out of the running backs this week, being they're going to probably be in a shootout against the Falcons because I think last week was a little bit weird for the Falcons. But I'm not playing them, and I don't want to unless I was super desperate. But if I have Deshaun Jackson, Alshon, Ertz, I feel extremely comfortable throwing them in there.
Agreed 100%. And all right, the price of a live show is that sometimes technology gets in the way. Of course, we had the issues earlier with the echo, and then, of course, Josh's phone died. I think, Josh, you're back now, right?
I'm back, fellas. I apologize.
All good, man. It happens. All right, so you got the Falcons side of things here with the Sunday night game. What you looking for in the Falcons side of things? A bounce-back game here at home?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible, but it's going to be tricky against this Eagles front, man. The watching kind of I don't know, man. Devontae Freeman I used to love watching that guy play football. He was like a little football robot, and I mean, watching that, he just kind of looked like he was toast. It is going to be really tough for the Falcons, even at home, to get anything going if they can't get Freeman looking more like himself. I don't know why, but Kadri Allison kind of outplayed Ito Smith here in preseason. And the Falcons really seem to trust Ito Smith quite a bit. So for me, I'm definitely going to temper expectations on the Falcons this week, especially for the running game. I mean, if there is a way to beat the Eagles, I think it's going to be, going to the air early and often and utilizing Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and even getting Mohamed Sanu in the mix and Austin Hooper as well. So it's definitely going to be a game where I'm targeting pretty much all the passing options because I think it could get a little bit high scoring, but I'm definitely staying away from the Falcons running backs. And I'm a little scared of Matt Ryan, but if I like the passing game, I kind of have to be interested in just a little bit.
And Matt Ryan is kind of like Big Ben. He's a different quarterback at home. I think that he does have a bounce-back game. Who you got for this game? Who you picking?
Yeah, I'm going to take Philly in this one.
Taking Philly. Ryan, who you got?
Philly.
All right, sweep it. I'm going Philly as well. All right, the Monday night game. We got the Browns, who, obviously we thought were going to be a high-flying offense that weren't a high-flying offense this past week. And they have the Jets on Monday night. Going to the Browns side of thing, Ryan, you looking for a bounce-back here?
Yeah, I mean, it was a rough start. They haven't played together all. OBJ hasn't played the preseason. Jarvis hasn't played the preseason. Literally, Baker, the only guy he's had any chemistry with Rashard Higgins. And come on, man. That ain't going to be his guy this season. I think they bounce back. I think the Jets are a little bit more underrated on defense than people give them credit for, but it's giddy up for those guys. I'm starting Odell. I'm starting Jarvis. Starting Nick Chubb. He's still got volume. He dominated the snaps. I love Nick Chubb brings to that team.
He got vultured in this past game where he would have had a better stat line.
He did what? I'm sorry?
He got vultured in this last game, the touchdown that someone took from him. I forgot who it was, but he got vultured.
Was it Hilliard?
Hilliard, yeah. Dontrell Hilliard.
Yeah, so that, I mean, you're not going to see that every time. And the Jets had problems with Devin Singletary last week, who is not Nick Chubb. I think the Browns will be a lot better than we saw last week, and we'll see a whole different side of them, and they're going to be back on that bandwagon very quickly.
All right, going to the Jets side of things, we got, of course, Le'Veon Bell and Robbie Anderson and Dalton are your options there really for fantasy purposes. Who are you looking for in this game, Josh?
Kind of circling all the way back to Ryan's article there, looking at Crowder. I mean, I think that's going to continue to be the way that Adam Gase gets his offense going is through the slot. And, I mean, just having 14 catches. I think I saw a tweet that he was the first player to have 14 catches, but under 100 yards.
Yeah, that was missed. I've seen that.
Yeah, just missed it by one. But I think, I mean, and it's weird because I didn't know really what to think about Adam Gase coming in, because when he was in Miami, I mean, his teams were just not good. They just didn't have talent on the offensive side of the ball, at least not talent that he was willing to trust, like, for example, Kenyon Drake. But I just think that they're really going to get the same type of offensive philosophy in gear again. I mean, we saw it in week 1. So I think it's going to be a heavy dose of Crowder, and you got to play Le'Veon Bell. I mean, if you took him in your season long leagues, I mean, you got to roll him out there. There's no way you're benching him, but I definitely think it's going to be a situation where the Browns have a bit of a bounce back. So it could be tough sledding for this offense, but interested to see kind of how this game shakes out. If I had to, do my pick right now, I would probably say that we have Cleveland. It looks like they're a 2.5-point favorite. I definitely think all the naysayers are getting to them. Just like us, Brown's going to Brown. So I think that's a little motivation, a little bit of motivation to get them back on it. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the Browns in this one here on Monday night.
All right, Ryan, who you got for this game?
Cleveland. I think they bounce back, even though I like the Jets for doing, but they're still a little bit young for me to really trust.
Agreed. I'm going Browns as well. All right, that wraps up the previews. Let's get to our forgotten player.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, Josh, you came back on just in time to give us your forgotten fantasy player. Who you got?
When you sent me the show notes, you mentioned that we could talk about players that we maybe had an interesting story about, and one guy I have an interesting story about. And if we had the video, everyone would see I got my Michigan State Spartans gear on. But one guy that went to Michigan State, Masim Muhammad.
Nice.
I loved Masim Muhammad. He was active, of course, for longtime Carolina Panther, also played for the Bears. And my brief story that I'll tell you guys is in 2004. It was, I think, only the second year that my league that I run, that I'm the commissioner of, I had taken, I believe, Sean Alexander, Deuce McAllister, and my first 3 picks all went out for like the first 6 weeks after week 1. So we're sitting here, 15 years ago. My first 3 picks all went out, and Steve Smith was my round 3 pick. Steve Smith broke his leg in Monday Night Football opener, and I picked up Masim Muhammad off the waiver wire thinking that I was the man. A couple weeks go by, him and Jake Delhomme just didn't quite have the chemistry that Steve Smith did. And even though Steve Smith was the younger player, I thought Masim Muhammad had more potential as the vet. But unfortunately, I wasn't patient enough to see my call through. And anybody that recalls Masim Muhammad's 2004 season, I'll put it this way. I did not get that touchdown from Monday Night Football, nor did I get any of his other 17 touchdowns that he scored that year. So that was just an absolute brutal season from the opening week until the end of the year. Your first 3 picks all go down for 6 weeks or more. And then the guy that you pick up to be your savior absolutely explodes on the eventual champions team. That's basically how my year went. So a little bit of a heartbreak that I'll never ever quite get over.
Nice. That's actually very similar to the one that I have in the same team too with Carolina Panthers. Is I drafted D'Angelo Williams. I think he had 12 touchdowns the year that I picked him up, but he was terrible the first 4 or 5, maybe 6 games. And then I dropped him for somebody else. I forgot who I dropped him for, but then another team picked him up, and then he just blew up for 12 touchdowns, and that guy won the championship against me. And I think Williams had 4 TDs in the game that he played against me. So very similar to my story as well.
Of course, of course, they always blow up against you when you drop them.
Exactly, 100%. All right, Josh, go ahead and give us your Twitter handle where we can follow you, where we can find your show at, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, anybody can find me on Twitter at Josh Dalley 72, Dalley, and we're going to be dropping episodes throughout the season of Next Fan up here. Basically, you can get them wherever fine podcasts are heard. We have our super fan battles and our preview shows that we'll be doing. That's going to be coming out later this week. Of course, I already mentioned the fantasy episode, which is hosted by yours truly. And Jeff, I believe we're getting you on here later on in the season as well.
Definitely.
We'll go ahead and nail down a week to get that one sent out, but we're going to be doing that, and then of course we have our recap show that we're known for. That's going to be out first thing for everyone's morning commute on Monday. So we appreciate everyone tuning in and listening.
Good stuff. All right, Ryan, where can we find you?
You can find me at GoingFor2.com. You can find me here every Tuesday. I'm on Twitter at Ryan Sirfos at FantasyFB Connect. Check out my waiver article from the season. All year, it's probably coming out Tuesdays. Make sure we beat that waiver run for it, and catch y'all next week.
All right, good stuff. And as always, I'm Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. You can find me here Tuesdays and Fridays. Fridays is our DFS show. We actually missed last Friday due to a personal issue, but we'll be back this Friday to do our first DFS show of the season. So everybody, make sure you check that out, and we'll see you Friday.